Welcome to GMS Midweek Late Night Live Chat. I'm sorry for being so late today, but have a bit of things to prepare and to go through to my mind before I comes because this one if don't do proper will get into trouble one. So preparation is very important for important broadcast like this one. Okay. Before I go into the population paper which I have put up, we are going to look at the population paper, a brief, they call it the population brief, which is published by ICA, I think. If I'm not wrong, it's ICA, oh no, sorry, beg your pardon. It should be by this so-called Prime Minister Office, because in Prime Minister Office, there's one office called the Population Department, which is at the moment Indrani is the head, is the minister in charge. Okay, they I would expect they should have made amendment to some of the data which I've pointed out is inconsistency for 2023, right? But they didn't. Never mind. Save that for another day because my simple calculation is not right, huh? But before we go to that, right? Before we go to that, Iswaran. Everybody is talking about Iswaran. Uh, as we know, sorry, wait. As we know, it's very dramatic when I heard about what happened in the courtroom, right? Or from the news. Oh, when it starts, the prosecutor, the public prosecutor, the AGC, basically, from AGC, Attorney General Chambers, amended the two serious charges. Among the 35 charges, these are the most serious charges. Okay, apart from the obstruction of justice, of corruption, right, to a lesser charges like the others, accusing Iswaran to accept gratification or gifts, so-called, or rewards or whatever goodies goodies uh, as a public servant is under the Penal Code 165. Now, some people like Calvin Cheng will say, "Oh, this is this Penal Code 165 is hardly used to charge anyone. I think this is the first time in the Singapore history after so long. It's supposed to be an old charge. Is supposed to be uh, not a serious charge. Blah blah blah. Okay, but I tell you why. I'll tell you why later. I will tell you why this is so. Right. Um, Now, under this charge, the maximum the maximum so-called jail term is actually 2 years. Right, for each charge. Right, and for the obstruction of justice, the jail term is 7 years. Now, AGC, everyone knows in Singapore. Even Iswaran knows this is of great public interest, his case. That's why he have applied to the district court because these corruption charges are supposed to be heard in district court first, right? If you remember correctly, yeah, right. So they applied to be heard in the High Court, right? And AGC agrees with it without objection because it is indeed a serious charge and of great public interest. So going to High Court now. So everyone agrees it's a very serious charges and of great public interest. And in his presentation, right, the public prosecutor from AGC actually says, "Oh, this is a serious charges, 35 charges, and out of 35, 34 are actually all the same. It means some public servants who receive a gratification, right, without reporting or over $50. Anything over $50, you have to report. Blah blah blah. Okay." when you say it is so serious, but what did the public prosecutor did? Only asked for a total of 7 months, 6 to 7 months of imprisonment. You have 35 charges. Out of 35, 34 are the same, similar, so called. If you take 34 charges altogether, 2 years, maximum 2 years, right? How many years already? Okay, lah. So they focus on five. The other 30 take into consideration. Okay, even if it's five, four charges maximum with a maximum 2 years imprisonment, jail term, it could have comes to 8 years already. Is that not? Then the maximum jail term for obstruction of justice is 7 years. So you add them together is 15 years. You only ask for 7 years, 7 months. Is it a joke? Is it serious or is it not serious? Don't your mouth say it's very serious, but in the end you ask for 7 months. Of course you can say you're concurrent, right? Two charges or three charges can go concurrent. But still, even I say two charges go concurrent, never mind. You still have what? Four charges or three charges. Still six plus seven, 13 years. And you ask for 7 months. I calculate, I use my calculator. Wow. Hey, Begam leh. You know, if you use your calculator to calculate, all right, 8 years plus 7 years. This is max without concurrent right? Without concurrent jail term. You times 12 is 180 months. 180 months. 7 months is only what? Less than 4%. Even if we say you got two charges or three charges run concurrently. Okay? Two charges or three charges run concurrently, that means you have 4 plus 7. 11. 11 years, right? Times 12. 132. You ask for 7. That's 5%. 5.3%. So is it serious or not serious? Last time when I was young, I used to read newspaper on court case, right? When the prosecutor said, wow, this is a very serious charge. And it is serious. This is the first time a minister have been charged in court. There are other ministers who have corruption in the past, like Teh Ching Wan, but he killed himself. He didn't go to court, right? And it is serious enough because you are, as a minister, you set the examples for other civil servants, public servants, we call it, right? A deterrent sentence should be asked for. But instead, the public prosecutor asked for 7 months, 4 to 6% of the total maximum jail term. You must be kidding. Please make up your mind. Is it serious or not? Of course, it is a joke when when a when a defendant, that means Iswaran, right? I think it's quite shameless, in my opinion, to say, oh, it should not be more than 8 weeks. My goodness, I was scratching my head, right? Not more than 8 weeks. It doesn't sound serious at all. And Iswaran, through his lawyer, Davinder Singh, have the cheek to say that, oh, my client, that means Iswaran, didn't know that it is against the law to accept gifts from his old friends. Are you kidding me? The last time something like this happened was LKY's time. LKY himself was caught, right? Goh Meng Seng also give him hefty discount. That's not even gift. That's a discount for property, the high end property in the Nasim. Nassim Road, number 8 Nassim Road. Yeah, I don't remember correctly. Right? Instead of the normal discount, he give extra 2% or 3% discount. Everyone make a big hoo-ha because it's an exclusive, at that time, like, it's an exclusive property, condo, right? And almost a lot of these limited exclusive condos were sold to Lee Kuan Yew and his family at hefty discount. And because Hotel Property Limited, HPL we call it, was public listed, so the shareholders were up in arms because it compromised their earnings, rightfully so, right? This case didn't go to the court, right? At that time, CPIB said, "Oh, there's no so-called corruption intention." Fine, but even so, if there's no corruption intention, by penal court of 165, it should be mindful of that, right? But never mind, because when you buy things like what LKY says, you go to a hawker center, people will give extra eggs for the char kway teow. Fine, that's his explanation. But even so, Lee Kuan Yew himself actually donated the extra the extra discount given to him to charity. It's such a big news. You don't tell me that Iswaran didn't know about it. It's a joke, right? And I can tell you, even there are so many cases of corruption cases that went to court, right? And some didn't go to court. Even an ang pao, even that ang pao that that the that the workers at the cremation, Mandai cremation, if I don't remember correctly, get from those families of the dead, right? They service them. So it's a customer, it's a culture, it's a Chinese culture, right? To give ang pao to those who have helped in the funerals and the cremation, right? They receive it and they will give stern warning. I mean, Iswaran live in Mars, is it? Or not in Singapore? He didn't know about all this. Cannot be what, right? So I do not think that is a good excuse. And rightfully so, even ignorance is not a defense, but it's for mitigation. But even so, this is not a good mitigation. To me, lah, the way I look at it, how can you say you don't know? You have been a civil servant and public office holder for so long. And the Prime Minister is supposed to send this code of conduct to every ministers and MPs. That's what PAP says, what code of conduct. What? After every election. Now, it seems to me that Iswaran has a great victory, even though he's going to jail, right? A lot of people say, "Oh, never mind, he's going to jail." No, that is not the point. The point is, how are you going to show to the world that we are serious about preventing corruption in our system? And why the AGC would have basically, technically dropped the corruption charges and change it to the lesser one, 165. I will explain why 165 is hardly used. Okay, is this right? I was someone raised this to me. If you read this carefully, okay, you read this carefully. This is talking about prevention of corruption. When you are a public servant, right? Whether it's civil servant or office holder, political office holders, right? If you receive any gratification in whatever forms, whether it's discount from hefty discount from anything that is above $50, right? Or gifts, and you didn't report it, right? Or pay for it if you want to keep it. That is a practice, right? It is a presumption in law. That's how the law is written, that there's a corrupt intent between the giver and the receiver. And it is not the prosecutor, the AGC, the prosecutor job to prove that you have this corruption. This only applies to those public servants, not the commercial one. This only applies to public servants, right? But there are, of course, legitimate defense against such charges is listed there, possible defenses, right? And yes, indeed, there are people who have successfully defended against corruption charges. The one in SCDF, right? People were talking about Bungay, if I not remember the name correctly, Bungay. In that case, was concluded when Iswaran was charged, okay, on the same day. Very funny, right? So on that day, he was acquitted of corruption charges. Why? Because his case is he has a sexual relationship with one of the salesperson or one of the subcontracting. All right. And his defense is I have sexual relationship with this lady, this sales girl, basically because they are in a relationship of love. Whether it's moral or immoral, there's nothing to do with it. And he can prove that the company that this sales lady that represent is not a direct bidder, is only a subcontractor, is not a main con. So there's no intent of corruption, right? And in fact, all the decision made go through a proper channel and is not affected. That is his defense. And he has successfully defended himself and get acquitted from the corruption charges. Possible. It's possible. So the burden of proof lies with the defendant. It's not on the prosecutor in this law if you are a public servant, right? So what is the role of the public prosecutor is to form up the charges, right? A reasonable charges to say, okay, you receive something from this guy, and this guy have some contract with your department, and you are in the position of power to make decision that benefits him, and that's all the prosecutor will need to do. And of course, if the prosecutor have evidence that certain decision was made in favor of this guy, right? That is good enough to formulate the charge. And of course, the defendant will actually try to poke holes in this we call the proposition, right? To say this is not true because the decision was not affected by me, gone through a certain checks by different people, the civil servants, other civil servants, blah blah blah, and all that. That is a legitimate defense, right? And in this case, I explained before, right? The best defense that Iswaran can have is actually their old friends. It's the same but different, It's the same as the SCDF guy, right? Because it's relationship. That's extramarital relationship. For Iswaran, it's a buddy-buddy relationship, right? But you have to prove there's no intent, right? No intent of corruption. It's possible to defend, right? It's possible to defend. But for the prosecutor, it's easier case already. Now, because of how the law is written for the prevention of corruption, Now I come back to why 165, the Penal Code 165 is hardly used. Because as long as you're a public servant, you receive money or whatever favors or whatever goodies from anyone that have some relationship with your department, but you are considered, you are presumed to have corruption intent. If it is so, there's no need to use 165 Penal Code. And that's the reason why Penal Code 165 is hardly used at all for all these years, for all the decades since um, our independence, right? Because straight away the presumption is you're corrupt. You take something from people, your contractors, or whoever who will benefit from your position of power that make decision through your department, you're deemed to be corruption, right? And it's for you to prove that it's not, right? So, this is how it works. So for the AGC to actually relented and drop the corruption charges by amending it is so bizarre to me, right? Okay, why? Now, does it mean that when the AGC decided to throw the two corruption charges on Iswaran, right, they do not have solid evidence at all? They do not even have statements from those whom they have interrogated that can form the basis of corruption intent, the corrupt intent at all. If so, then why Suka go in charge? He is a minister, He's a PAP minister, no doubt, but he's a minister that represents Singapore. And when we do that, the whole international globally will, wow, why? Singapore is supposed to be a clean government. Our international reputation will be at stake. Right? And now, right before the trial start, you amend it and you drop the corruption charges. There's another wow. Another a space for imagination for all the observers, not only in Singapore, throughout the world. They will look at it, what is Singapore is trying to do? Suka charge people for corruption and suka drop corruption charges like that. Even when the corruption law, the prevention of corruption law in Singapore is so clear cut, which need the defendant to actually provide the proof. The burden of proof is on the defendant. So immediately after I read about the news of this happening, I wrote an article on my Facebook. I said, I cannot understand why the corruption charges was dropped. And it is in public interest because this is not a kucing kura, not just a civil servant were charged, like the SCDF guy. It is a minister, it's a political office holder. It's of great public interest. And I have said, even the prosecutor themselves, the defendant themselves, and everyone, the court agrees that this is of great public interest. Correct? That is why it was moved from district court to high court. And we must have some clarity. Why suka flip-flop one? Now say you got corruption, then later say, oh no, we just drop the corruption charges. Maybe other cases can. So there are legitimate ways why these charges can be dropped. If there is a material change in the evidence. It means that something must have happened when the charge was actually first read, put up to the court case hearing. There are some new evidence that comes out that show otherwise, that weakens the position, right? Then of course you change, right? But this must be made known because it's such an important case. Such an important case, must have some clarity what happened, especially it's politically there's a political interest in it. It is a ex-minister of the ruling party right now that's being charged. There must be some clarity, or else the credibility of the AGC will be dented. Or is it because right from the start, right, there's no strong evidence in the first place? Then you go into put up a corruption charges, then later on you draw. Masa-masa like that. Cannot be what? Right? I have full trust in the CPIB in investigation. Right? And of course, in any simple case, other cases, right, whether it's a traffic case, whatever case, murder case also, there are something called plea bargain. Right? Plea bargain is done when there are 50-50, half fight. Right? When the accused, the defendant, is willing to admit to a lesser charges, but not a serious charges. For example, murder and manslaughter. Like, murder is a death penalty, a capital punishment. But manslaughter can be just a jail term, right? So it depends on the intent. It's very difficult to go and prove intent. The difficulty is very because the burden of proof is on the prosecutor to prove that he have intention to kill this person. He's actually plot to kill this person, and that's called murder. Manslaughter is, oops, sorry, I didn't have intention of killing you, but I killed somebody accidentally. That's called manslaughter, right? You may escape a death penalty, lah. That type of case can have a plea bargain because it's very difficult for prosecutor to prove intent in some cases, right? But in this case, the prosecutor do not need the burden of proof is not on the prosecutor, as I explained. So we wish to know, is there a plea bargain down here that's carried out? Right. So after I put up my article, my posting, AGC at night, right, came out with a statement. Of course, you will run through the thing, why the charges were brought up, blah blah blah. That's why you have this. Right. This from the press statement. He explained. He also explained very difficult to prove, right? The intent, the corruption intent, because it needs Goh Meng Seng as a giver and the recipient Iswaran. They are both so-called so-called testimony to actually prove the intent. And if Goh Meng Seng is going to be one potentially to be charged, it's not easy for him to incriminate himself, so-called. That was the reasoning was given, right? The difficulties. But hey, I thought you have a statement from Goh Meng Seng already. He was interrogated. I thought that his statement will have actually proven the intent. No. If not, if there's no proof of intent or evidence of intent for an investigation, then why would you press the charges of corruption in the first place? Only now then you realize it's difficult to prove. By the way, by the law written in Singapore, right, the burden of proof is not on the prosecutor, as I have said. Right? So I do not know what exactly happened. Yet, they didn't answer the second part of the question. Right? Whether there is a plea bargain. Right? Interesting enough, when I listened to the radio, right, even the DJ felt that, oh, most likely there's a plea bargain. Right? Some lawyers who wrote on the social media also said most likely there's a plea bargain. But AGC has never admitted or confirmed there's a plea bargain. It's a result of plea bargain. If it confirms it's a plea bargain, then I will have to ask, right? If the burden of proof is not on you, why would you relent it to a plea bargain? Is it because right from the start you do not even have any evidence to show that there's a corruption intent? I'm puzzled, right? Is it incompetency at play? Nevertheless, in the few pages of press statement, this part is very interesting because I was POFMA when I talk about the David Lam thing. In my post, I just say that David Lam and Iswaran know each other for a long time because David Lam, I didn't say that but I replied in the short post, they are good friends. Because David Lam was a grassroots leader for Iswaran, right, in the past. And David Lam was awarded a contract by the LTA. That was in 2016, right? Which Iswaran was not a minister of transport yet. But when the gift was given, Iswaran was a minister of transport. So I was POFMA because I did not say the intention at all. I did not say that David Lam got the contract from LTA because of Iswaran. I did not say that. I just put the simple facts, the three facts, right? It was POFMA because the Ministry of Transport, the Minister of Transport interpreted that I was implying that David Lam's company got the contract from LTA because of Iswaran. But Iswaran was not the Minister of Transport back then. How could that be? Of course it cannot be. I was popped up for that. And I wasted 1 day of my life in POFMA office. I was caught up. Right? I explained to them. First of all, right, I did not say he got the contract because of Iswaran, and so that he need to give a gratification to him. I did not say that. You interpreted that. That's not what I meant. But the contract with LTA lasted for 10 years and it overlaps with Iswaran's position as Minister of Transport in 2021. And in construction, there were a lot of issues, like quality issues, like payment issue. A&A means addition and alteration contracts, subcontracts. Especially this is 10 years contract, a big contract, right? So that might be this might be the reason why the corruption intent was formulated, why the gratification was given. But it can also be because both of them are good friends. That's why I said they are good friends. That's why I said there's a contract. That's why I say Iswaran was a public transport minister of transport. Anything wrong with that? You interpreted it wrongly. It's not my problem. I'm not the one who will tell you how to interpret what I say. Right? And the fact is, when this when this um when this statement came out from AGC, they actually right on the right on the dot of what I have said. Because of the contract, it's a long-term contract, and there's addition and alteration contract ongoing. That is seen to a potential conflict of interest, to be seen a potential source of corrupt intent when Iswaran was a minister of transport. It's legitimate. They know, they knew about this possibility, and they POFMA me. You see? That's why when I first stepped into the POFMA office, I said, they have been weaponizing this POFMA to use it against people like us, our critics, their opponent. It's no longer about facts. I put up the facts. It's about how they try to interpret out of context. I told the POFMA office, look, you can go and look. You are taking this out of context. Before I write this, I already established their relationship. I have established the contract lasted for 10 years, right? And I actually says that there might be some of the issues that might be arise from the contract. Then I put up this, right? You must look at the thing in totality. You cannot out of context. You try to interpret what I try to mean, which I didn't mean it, right? You twisted it and you pop on me. It's kind of smearing my reputation, right? And I told the POFMA officer, you know, AGC or the CPIB people should know very well. These are the potential conflict of interest. I'm not stupid, although I'm not trained in law, okay, but I'm not stupid, right? So a lot of times I also read about JOM. JOM was very proud that always accuse us, especially me, people like me who put up misinformation about COVID vaccination and all that. Until John himself kena POFMA. They went to High Court and spent all the time and money on the High Court and kena rejected their appeal. Right? Then they start to say, oh, they're not fair. They interpret what we say and all that. What? Yeah lah. You know, they do not know how to defend themselves lah. I say, because they are using the law on what they interpret what you try to mean, not the facts that you have put up. Right? That's how it is. Because of their bias against the unvaxxed like us, they said we are misinformation. But I will come to this later. What misinformation? Information are coming out. More and more research are coming out to point to the right information. Okay. So These are all about Iswaran case and the POFMA. Ayo, most miss ikan liao. Okay, I'm supposed to talk about this. The overall population, the population brief. Everyone got wow. Say wow, 6 million people already. It's nothing new lah. Why? I've been talking about this. I've been talking about this what, right? Since early this year. We will reach 6 million this year. What's so what's so wow about that? When Goh Meng Seng say nobody believe. Then when the actual figures come out, oh people wow. Don't wow. This is real. Okay? This is real. Total population have increased more than 100,000 again, all right? From 2023 to six to cross the 6 million mark. So we are moving towards 6.9 million, right? Now, it is all statistics and all this. But one of my guys actually looked through it and asked and said that although this report talk about they take reference from the ICA data of life and birth data, right? No, the birth and death data. But within this report, no figures were cited for the death. Okay, why? You're only interested in the birth, not the death, right? And I have shown in my past that there are some calculation problem about new citizens. Okay, now never mind. These are the marriage and parenthood. This aggregated data is meaningless. As a statistician and a policy analysis, we require a time series data to, to see the trend, to understand the trend and to see what could be the possible problems. Okay, right? So you talk about marriage and parenthood like that, it doesn't make any sense to me, right? Not much of a sense. No value, so called, right? Especially when aggregated, that means average out average what marriages over 5 years, it doesn't actually have any usefulness in our policy analysis. Okay, this one, right? This is how it looks. Permanent residence stays quite constant, 540,000. But does it mean that Singapore did not give up new PRs? No. Why? Because some of the PRs have been given new citizenship. And in order to maintain the 0.454 or 53, right, of numbers of PRs, you have to give new PRs to top it up. That's how it works. Right? This data will be very misleading if you just take it as face value. You must understand the working of it. Right? How do you become PRs? You must have EP first, or you must study as a foreigners first, non-residents called. So the increase in non-residents are actually is bigger than literally this year minus that year, because you must also count in how many new citizenship have been given out, because it's all related, right? How many new citizens is given out? It's not just by, oh, this year citizens population is this, then you minus last year. No, it's not like that. Why? Because they are deaf, they are birth. So you must net the death and birth as well, right? This is how it should work. right? So people who are not trained in statistics or understand the context of the data, I always talk about context of data, could be very could be very misleading to them. So I told my friend, you cannot look at data like that. You must understand how the data works, the context behind it. Right? Then you understand that, oh, actually the PRs, although the total number remain the same, but every year we are giving out quite a number of PRs depending on how many left Singapore, as well as how many was given the new citizenship, in order to maintain the same number alone, right? Because this paper doesn't put up death, right? We cannot straight away calculate how many new citizens were given out. Now look at this, right? Now the citizens, for example, for 2023 and 2022, right? The citizen population increased from 3.55 million to 3.61 million, right? That is that's actually six, 60,000 is a lot, 60,000 is a lot, right? Now, how does this happen? This increase must be equals to, right, the number of new citizens given out plus birth minus death, correct? Without knowing the death, we cannot know, without knowing the death and the birth, the net effect of a death and birth, right? We cannot know how many new citizens were given out. And I've actually did a calculation before because from ICA data, because this report doesn't give you the death numbers. It only give you the birth numbers. It is error. It's an error to just take this 60,000, go and minus away the birth. Then you get new citizens given out. It is error. You cannot do that. Why? The reason is this, because there's still death. Right? In order to top up the death, you need additional. So you must plus back the death. Right? So my estimation was about 50,000. Because the net effect of life, the birth and the death of citizens, or the residents, is only 4,000 plus out of the increase of 60,000. So I'm still very puzzled about this data that come out from a population brief. I need to go into Parliament and ask Indrani right into her face, or whichever minister is in charge. How do you come up with that figures? 23,000 or 24,000? Slightly more, less than 24,000 new citizenship given up. When your figures is like this, I need to know. I still cannot figure out how they come up with that figures. Right? It doesn't tally. Right? Now, beside this, right, population growth and that, in 2021, we have a minus 4.1% population growth. Why? Right? Even our citizen population actually dropped. If you look at this, right, the same data again. In 2021, our citizen population actually dropped from 3.52 to 3.5 million, in spite of the fact that we are giving out new citizenship. Why? A lot of people give up their citizenship during the COVID time, from 2020 to 2021. Who are the ones who give up their citizenship so easily during the COVID time? Yeah, maybe some Singapore locally born Singaporeans, but I believe most of them are the new citizens. Only them can afford to give up Singapore citizenship and return to their motherland and reapply for their motherland citizens again. Or else it's very difficult. During COVID time, lockdown, who want to receive you? Give you new citizenship unless you are already from there. There are certain countries are easy to give citizenship back to their previous citizens who have left the country. What are the implications? If you want to build the core of our nation, giving out new citizenship to foreigners or to the PRs may not work. When there's a trouble in Singapore, in the country, they may just abandon the ship, abandon the country, and go back balik kampung to their motherland. That is the reality. That is the reality. This is what I told my friend. You must understand why there's a drop. Because the death, the excess death in 2020 is actually not very much. Huh? Even 2021 is not that much, right? The excess death, right? It's only a few thousand more only for the norm. These are how we analyze data. Okay. Sorry. Okay. I want to talk about this data. Page data on the annex. The marriage. Now, if you want to build our core, we have to look at the proportion of singles among citizens by age group and sex. Okay, look at this. From 2013 to 2023, right? Those who are aged 30 to 39, the percentage of them who are not married, right, have basically increased the percentage point by 1 percentage point. And this is the worrying part, right? Although in the age 40 to 49, right, there are certain fluctuation, right? But it also increased ultimately in 2023. What is the significance about this? As I explained, right? Look at this. Although this is from a past data, those who are born in from 1960s to 1970s, the numbers of babies were born according to the age that they get married. In the 20-year-old marriage, the average number of babies the couples will actually have is above two, right? So on and so forth. So you can see the trend. I believe this trend will always be there. Okay, the younger you are married, the more the chances of having more babies are higher. The later you get married, the less baby you will have. And those who are married at 35, actually, on average, they have less than one baby. Okay, this is a trend. So if you look at this trend compared to that data, it means that no wonder our fertility rate is going down. Okay, no wonder. There's no mystery about that because people are getting married later and later, and the percentage of people who are not married after 30 years old are getting more, and those who are after 40 years old haven't get married also getting more. 17% of basically almost 17% of Singaporeans are not getting married. If you don't get married, how are you going to have babies? Out of wedlock, maybe lah, but still, you see, these are the fact of life that we are having in Singapore. This total number of marriage doesn't make any sense because when we are talking about the core, to maintain our survivability as a country with enough citizens to carry on, locally born, right? We are going to fail, and it's a failure of PAP's policies. I will explain why, right? Now, there's another data I want to take a look. Okay, this one. The proportion of these two, you will look at the proportion of numbers of couples for citizen or resident, I don't care. Right? More important are the residents because this is our core. Right? Those who are 30 to 39 and 40 to 49, they are not giving enough children. Right? Right? This is living true. Right? It's dropping. It's actually dropping. Total number of birth also drop. Now, what does this actually tells us? Actually, okay. It means something very important. The whole population or babies incentive the PAP is giving target at those who are married. That's number one, for the first children. But we are having more people unmarried or marrying or married late, have a late marriage. If you don't get married, you don't give birth, right? Unless it's a wedlock, out of wedlock, and you don't get the incentive. So they're actually targeting shrinking numbers of babies. Why? People are getting married late. Right? No matter how much incentive you give for baby bonus and all that, and leaves and all that, it doesn't anymore matter anymore. Because once people are getting married late, the probability of having more babies are getting less and less. So, so the main key to solve this problem is actually to encourage people to get married early. It's not about baby bonus alone. So the concept have to change. And I don't think PAP realized the problem. They only think about giving married couples, the mothers or even the man, the husband, more incentive to give married, to give birth. That is wrong because they have married late. When they get older and older, fertility rate will get drop, and it's not safe to give birth for women above 38. Right? Your productive years is actually from 20 to 40. Right? But if you are getting married in the 35, how many babies can you afford to have? You cannot every year give birth to one baby. Right? I don't think Singaporeans nowadays will prefer that. And that is the problem. So to me, when I look at these population policies, we have seen even the residents or the new citizenship that they gave out, when they become the new citizens, they become the citizens, they also get married late. So what gives? It doesn't help. You are just expanding the population without solving the core problem. That's late marriage. This is why, for us in the People's Power Party, we focus on the real problem: how to encourage young couples to get married early, not just baby bonus. I'm not saying that do away with baby bonus. No, that is not enough. That is not going to solve the problem. The key problem, if money can solve the problem, it's not a big problem. Okay, it is when money cannot solve the problem, then it's a problem. It's a real problem. Why? When you get married late, no matter even if you want more babies, you can't because your biological abilities drop. How are you going to solve that problem? Even money cannot buy babies. Let you give birth. Yeah, you are not going to solve the problem. That's why we come back to the HDB problem again. BTO is the problem. Is one of the problems. I'm not saying it's the only problem, but it's one of the problems. We have to get rid of this BTO. You're asking people to wait for 3 years, 5 years for HDB flat before they can stay inside and start to make babies. Don't believe PAP MP that said you only need a small space to make babies. No lah, right? Have sex maybe, but not babies. Right? That's nonsensical, right? So I would suggest to have a kickstart family kickstart program for the HDB. You build in excess a 2-room flat or 2.5-room flat for young couples at very cheap cost. It's not about subsidy. What market subsidy? That is rubbish. Right? Do away with the land cost. Sell them at the construction cost plus. I always call that cost plus. Right? To these young couples, so that you entice them, to encourage them to get married early. Because young couples that just graduate from school, they may not have that financial abilities to buy the normal BTO, the normal 3-room flat or 4-room flat with land cost calculated in. This is the one of the real solution to solve the baby problem. Because we solve the root problem of a low number of babies, that is late marriage. These are based on data. 冇好小案, right? You look at the data, you will understand the root problem. I am surprised with all the scholars the PAP has, right? With all the highly paid ministers, they are pointing their guns and their bullets in the wrong direction. They are not solving the problem. They don't even understand what is the root problem. It's time for change. It's time to change. Yes, we can. Right? There's so many things I want to ask in Parliament. They will not get it easy. And they know it. If I'm in Parliament, they are not going to get it easy. Right? But whether I get into Parliament doesn't depend on them. It depends on your votes and your support. So please support my party and our effort to get into Parliament. First, to solve problem is to identify the correct problem, the set of problems, before we can come aim at the solution. I overrun for quite a bit. Thank you for watching until past 12. I think a lot of civil servants cannot sleep tonight. Watching also. But never mind. Let's do it right and let's do it good for Singapore. Thank you for watching. And please share and comment and donate to the People's Power Party. Good night.